The thought of working hard to achieve a goal that does not fit in with what your manager expects or even fit in with what your team is doing can be pretty heartbreaking. But how does that happen? And how do we ensure that it never happens again? Today, we're going to be talking about creating and executing achievable goals for a high performance team. My name is Julia Pottinger. I am the Training and Development Manager at QualityWorks Consulting Group, where I help consultants upskill so that they can continue to provide invaluable solutions to our clients. You can find me on Twitter at eyelidge876. I'm also over on YouTube where I create content on development and test automation at youtube.com/Julia Pottinger. And I'm also active on LinkedIn. Now, a goal is a specific desired result or objective that is planned and committed to being achieved in a given time frame. There are a wide variety of goals that you can help your team to achieve. This range from career goals to personal goals to goals that have a direct impact on the business, profitability, and functionality. Regardless of the goal, there is a certain way that you should go about creating those to ensure that they are measurable and achievable. Goals can also help to determine and measure how well a team or company is doing. When doing goal creation, I first recommend that you create goals at a company level and then you have goals that are created at the team level. After this, you can create individual goals that will fit in and align with both the company and team goals. So your responsibility as a manager and leader is to work along with other executives to first identify those strategic goals that your company may have. Ensure that those are solidified because you don't want your team to start creating goals for something that is going to change in the future and may have adverse effects on future plans. You want the goals that your team is creating to match up with the direction that the company is going. This is the same for individual goals. You want individuals to be working on something that is providing value to the company, to feel that what they're doing is of value and is providing some impact. So, as an engineering team, if for example, your company has a goal to increase their revenue to 10x, and in order to achieve that, then they must increase the number of users to the checkout page, then a team goal could be that they are going to redesign the checkout workflow. This would be a team goal with several different objectives, such as doing user research to determine where users drop off in the current workflow, or create a better user experience when adding to cart. Also, you could give user recommendations on items to purchase based on shopping history. So based on the company goal, which is to increase revenue by having 10,000 daily visitors to the checkout page, which will result in 1 million monthly recurring revenue, your engineering team is going to take from that and see how they can impact or make strides in achieving that goal. So they're going to create goals and objectives from that. And then individuals are going to also create goals from that as well. Once your team have outlined their goals, it's now time to start working on individual goals. Overall, ensure that your team is helping to drive these goals. You want them to get passionate about the goal that they have, and you want to help them towards completing the goal. When creating individual goals, this same rule apply. Give the members of your team some time to think about the company goal, the team goal, and have them come up with a list of goals that they would like to achieve that would be of value. I have found that if I just give goals to someone I lead, then ask them to create goals, they may feel pressured to have that goal on their list. If I give them the room to think, then they are going to think of something that excites them, something they're passionate about, but still fits within the company and team goals. And you'll be really surprised with the ideas and ingenuity that they come up with. So give them that room to think, give them that room to breathe, trust them to come up with goals, and then you meet together, review those goals, and ensure that they are smart. At the end of goal creation, everyone should be aligned and working towards the same outcome. Everyone should also now understand the value that they're adding and how their work contribute to the bigger picture. In setting goals, you want to ensure that your goals are SMART. I just mentioned that goals should be SMART. It's an acronym. It means specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based goals. You should have a specific thing that you are going to achieve. As you look on that goal, you're able to identify what that thing is. And that should be measurable. There should be a certain percentage that you're looking to hit, or there should be a certain number that you're looking to hit. For example, in the company goal, you're looking for 10,000 visitors to the site on a daily basis. That is a tangible number. That is something that you can measure. That is a metric that you can use analytics to get. It needs to be measurable. In measuring this goal, it allows you to identify when you have completed this goal. It provides you with some tangible evidence that the goal has been completed so that you can reevaluate whether you need more time, whether it was an unrealistic goal, or whether you need to adjust the goal. Your goal should be attainable. If you only have 50 users on a daily basis, then having 10,000 users on a daily basis may be a very huge jump for you to achieve. Instead, may ensure that it is attainable based on your current baseline metrics that you have. Your goal should be relevant as well. It should speak to your core values and the direction that you want the company to go towards. Your company wants to increase 10x revenue, therefore, your goal should align to that. The team goal should align to that, and then individual members should have their goals being aligned to that as well. The final piece to having SMART goals is that they are time bound. Your goals should have a specific time that you're saying you're going to be completed with it. For company goals, you may have quarterly goals or you may have yearly goals. For team goals, you could have sprint goals, which is normally 2 weeks, or you could have goals that you want to achieve for a particular quarter or half of the year. Individual goals may vary in time based on the complexity of the goal. So you may have goals that should be achieved in a month or 2 months. Whatever the length of time, there needs to be a specific time that is achievable that you're saying at the end of this time period, I want this goal to be completed. Now, after creating your goals, it's time for you to measure them. It's very important that you have clear metrics on how to determine when the goal has been completed. If you have created SMART goals, then there should be some evidence that you're looking to have that is going to say the goal has been completed. However, before reaching completion, we want to ensure that there are milestones along the way that can be easily identified. These milestones can be small progress markers that you use to indicate that the goal is closer to completion. So, in measuring your goal, you want to have a definition of done, you want to have clear metrics, and you want to have goal milestones. If, for example, in the team goal, we are redesigning the checkout workflow. There are multiple pages in the workflow, such as the cart page, the product gallery, the payment page, and the checkout page. Therefore, we are going to have to design, develop, test, and release each of those pages. Each of those things could be separate progress markers towards the completion of the overall goal. There could be a progress marker to design the card page. There could be a separate one to develop that same card page, even further to test that card page. These can also be broken down. What you need to ensure that you do is create appropriate progress markers. And if your goal is too big, on a company level, then ensure that on the team level and on the individual level, you are breaking down your goals to be specific, to be time bound, to be measurable. Now, in order to successfully measure your goal, there needs to be a definition of done. Definition of done is something that is used in Agile, and it just refers to a list of criteria that must be met. If you say you are completed with a goal, then you're going to go through that list and ensure that each thing on that list is done. I have found it to be very effective when creating user stories in Agile. So if I have a user story with acceptance criteria, overall for the development team, there is some definition of done that is going to be saying like unit test needs to be there needs to be some form of test automation, there needs to be regression test that is done by QA, it needs to be approved by design, etc. Those are normally definition of done, and it can be applied as well to goal setting. So if you have your goal, what are the markers and definition of done that you're going to have? So for example, if under that overall goal of updating the checkout workflow, you have a developer and they have a goal, an individual goal to complete the development of 3 checkout feature tickets. Note here that there is a number. So we're looking to complete 3 tickets. It's tangible. I can identify when I've completed 1 ticket, when I've completed 2, when I've completed 3. Now, this goal could have been just to create 1. Now, in this goal, I have broken down objectives or milestones or some definition of done. In order for the developer to say that their goal has been completed, they need to have unit tests that they create for each feature. They should create a pull request, and that pull request should be reviewed and approved and merged in by members of the team. The feature that they create should be tested and approved by QA. QA should also have done regression testing on different features to ensure that that new feature did not cause any adverse changes in the software. Design and product should also approve it. Did the feature meet the design specifications? Does it have the functionality that product envisioned? And finally, the feature being released to production. Once it is that the developer meets all of those criteria, then they can say they have completed their goal. And they can use this to tick off. So they create their feature and they write some unit test. They can tick that off to say, okay, I have done that part of the goal. So when you're doing check-in with the developer, they can show that to say, this is where I am on completing the goal. I've created unit test and I have a PR. I'm waiting for that PR to be approved. But it's something tangible that you can continue to check and update on. No, I just touched briefly a bit on tracking your goals by talking about meetings. In tracking your goal, you want to help your team member not only create those goals, you don't only want to measure those goals, but you want to help to track them. And if you have been creating SMART goals that have some definition of done, some criteria, some milestones, then it's going to help you track those goals even easier. So, in tracking your goals, you're going to have check in meetings. These meetings can be in the form of one on one, where you're asking, how are you doing? You're checking in on their well being. You're finding out if they are okay with their goals, if they have any blockers. You're finding out if they feel valued, if they think what they're doing is adding value to the company, just being a good manager overall. These check in meetings, you can discuss the goals that they have, ask them what their progress is on it, and you can make that the time that you use to check off where they are on doing their goal. I and other members of my team use this thing where if I have a one on one scheduled in 2 weeks, in the agenda of that meeting, I am going to put what I am expecting to happen. If there's a goal for the developer to have completed 1 feature, then in the agenda for the next one on one that we're going to have, I'm going to put expected deliverable. This XYZ feature should be completed. The measures of it being completed are unit tests, PR, QA tested and approved, etc. So when the calendar gives the developer notification, or if they check on the meetings that they have, they can see in the meeting invite in the agenda the deliverables that we're going to be talking about. You can also create reminders around these deliverables to help them remember what the goal is. This can be talked about in your daily stand up. This can be talked about asyncly in your Slack communications that you may have whenever you have some time. You can just send a reminder about goals and deliverables that the team may have. Very importantly, in tracking goals is helping to remove blockers. Helping your team to remove blockers from time to time is very important, as you may have workflows that may no longer work or workflows that now have bottlenecks. Having async and dedicated time for communication will help you to be aware of these blockers as a manager and allow you to provide the support and resolution needed. In order to help your team overcome blockers and bottlenecks in the workflow and processes that you have, you first need to empower your team to communicate clearly and often. They need to communicate when there is an issue, as well as solutions that can help to remedy that. Team members may also be blockers without knowing, as they may be focused on another priority. So, in a stand up or whatever form of communication that you have, it's important that these blockers are shared. After blockers are shared and after you're communicating clearly and often, it is equally important that there's a culture of prioritizing unblocking others. Think about how you can unblock somebody. It can be something as simple as setting out a specific time slot to do PRs so that persons don't have PRs for weeks. You are constantly reviewing PRs every day or every other day. This is going to help to unblock someone that may have a goal requiring them to have PRs that are reviewed and approved. This could also be something like updating a ticket with needed descriptions or steps to implement. Prioritizing unblocking others. See how you may be blocking someone and talk to them to see how you can also unblock them. The next thing is that you want to empower your team to make decisions. In creating software, there is a lot of many decisions that will need to be made. And if your team does not feel empowered to make those decisions, then they may block themselves or become blocked because they don't feel confident enough in making those decisions. Empower your team to know that they are decisions that you trust them to make. And once it is they start making those decisions, then processes and workflows will flow very smoothly. And finally, something that I have found worked really well on my team is have a no meeting day. This is normally a Monday, first day of the week, first day of the work week. You come in, you have no meetings. It allows you time to focus without interruptions. Meetings can become interruptions, and sometimes those meetings, as a lot of persons say, could have been an email. But dedicating a time for your team to focus on tasks and achieving goals is really important. So, if you can find ways to reduce meetings or have no meeting days, that is really helpful and will go a really long way in ensuring that goals are being met and you have a high performance team. And finally, after you have created goals, you are measuring them effectively, you're tracking them, it's now time for you to complete the goals. This may be at the end of a time period that you have specified, but it's important to note that not all goals are met, and that is fine. It's okay if not all goals are met, but you need to do some retrospective. You need to understand why the goal wasn't met. Why was this deadline missed? Things won't always be perfect. Analyze what was done, what went wrong, what went well, and what you could have improved on. Perhaps you overestimated the goal. Maybe you thought you had time that you didn't. Maybe in the middle of things, the goal got changed. Use all of this for the next iteration of goal setting. Maybe there are blockers that took way longer than you expected to resolve. There could be a lack of confidence to execute, so you need to empower your team more. There are many things that can happen. Think about how you can resolve these things that were blockers towards the completion of your goals and iterate on these improvements for the next goals that will be set. Now, throughout this process of goal creating and executing and measuring, you should provide your team with the tools, techniques, and empowerment to be goal completers and solutioners. You should create a team that is able to problem solve on their own, but trust you as well to help them resolve issues and provide guidance. Even if the goals were not completed, acknowledge the different milestones that were and celebrate those, as they have taken you and your team closer to the goal being completed. And when the goal is hit, celebrate those as well. Acknowledge when your team is doing well, provide them with positive reinforcement, give them compliments, tell them that what they're doing has provided tremendous value to the company. When doing an assessment of goals that have been completed, ensure that you do some form of traceability to see how well those individual goals align with the team goals and align with the company goals. Check for alignment, review, and adjust where needed. Mark goals completed based on the different metrics that you have and your definition of done. Ensure you congratulate your team and you provide constructive feedback based on their performance. After this, it's all time to start the process of goal creation, execution, and measuring all over again. Thank you for listening to this talk on measuring, creating, and executing goals for a high performance team. I hope you have learned some really impactful things that will help you create better goals for your team, measure and track them effectively. Let's stay connected. Have a good rest of your day.